We have breaking news out of Israel this morning where Hamas has launched a surprise attack within Israel's borders.
Israel has formally declared war after that unprecedented multi-pronged terror attack.
A network of 1,300
More than
tunnels.
700 Israelis are now feared dead.
Below the Gaza Strip, there seems to be another city.
In the wake of a devastating terrorist attacks committed by Hamas against Israel, with open-source techniques exploring and investigating the terrorist tunnel system. In the past 2 weeks, over 7,000 rockets were launched from Gaza into Israel. But how do organizations like Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, build these rockets, considering the challenges they face? Now let's talk about the tunnels. These tunnels play a crucial role in their operations, helping them assemble weapons, embed explosives in rockets, and carry out attacks. On October 7th, tunnels were central to one of the most devastating attacks. To this very moment, these tunnels likely remain a prison to those hundreds of hostages taken by Hamas. How could this happen? And perhaps more pressingly, what will the Israeli Defense Forces need to expect when they enter the tunnels? Israel knew for over a decade the capabilities of this tunnel network, and that Hamas would keep building them. Some, actually a lot of them, got wiped out. But like the head of a hydra, they just kept on growing new parts to the system. To find out what's going on and what role the tunnels played in the recent attack on Israel, we spoke with one of the foremost experts on the Hamas tunnel system, Diado Hecht, a defense analyst at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. Hecht's observation: a typical entrance to a tunnel in the basement of a house in Gaza, found by Israeli troops. Note: white sacks that were originally used to distribute food or other commodities to Palestinian refugees by UNRWA. You can see it in the red circle. They were being used as camouflage to evade detection by Israeli intelligence services, bringing building materials to the tunnel and extricating the soil dug up from within the tunnel, and in some cases covering tunnel entrances. Hecht gave testimony to the UN Commission nearly 10 years ago and explained the tunnel in such forensic detail that he seemed the right person to question about purpose and structure. He compared the tunnels back then with those built by the Viet Cong, who, over a couple of decades, dug extensive tunnel systems as safe havens from South Vietnamese and American troops. Though there were other examples to choose from, Hecht chose it because of their defensive nature and because it was a prominent example. Some stress that after 2014 the tunnels became longer, wider and deeper than before. It seems Hamas has also improved on the efficiency of building them. New tunnels can be dug fairly quickly, with some estimates that a meter per day can be dug with tools as simple as a DeWalt hand drill. They have building engineers who designed what they needed to know. The concrete is purchased as building materials for houses in Gaza, but diverted. That is why Israel put a freeze on import of concrete for a time. But international pressure would have compelled Israel to let them continue to import. Hecht's shown a special video, the self-promoting footage of the Al-Quds Brigade, AQB, terrorist group in Gaza. The video is one of the few most recent pieces of evidence on the rocket tunnel infrastructure, how the AQB, PIJ's military wing, maintains it. The video was posted on October 9th, 2 days after the terrorists crossed the border. It's not sure whether the footage was in fact filmed and produced after the attack, or merely prepared, so filmed before it. If it was, then it would tie the majority Iran-funded PIJ directly to the attack by the Hamas. Let's see that video first, and we will see Hecht's perspective. After years of analyzing images and footage of Hamas tunnels, he says he has not seen anything new here. Of course, they are careful not reveal anything that might help us locate and destroy the tunnels. Open source observations allow gathering some additional insight. Unguided S-40, 40 km rockets identified. These are domestically made and produced underground in secured missile production workstations. The video shows how the missile type's being shoved into a hole in the ceiling of the tunnel structure. Hecht explains the defensive tunnels are a warren under Gaza. They include storerooms, command posts, medical stations. They enable travel between different areas without coming above ground. They have multiple entrances and exits, so they can come out where and when they want, fight, then run back down to disappear, either shutting and camouflaging the entrance again or exploding it to prevent IDF troops following them. The video shows they are also, at least in this part, fitted with electricity and lights, and may serve in part as religious sites, as the paintings and graffiti on the walls let assume. Schematic illustration of a cross-border tunnel discovered by the IDF in 2013, nearly a year before the summer 2014 war. The tunnel entrance was inside the Gazan village of Abbasan al-Zarir. It was aimed to reach the Israeli village of Ein Hashlosha, but the diggers could have changed direction further on to the village of Nirim. Hecht explains 3 major things have changed since his testimony. Since Israel built the underground wall, the smart wall on the Israel-Gaza Strip border, Hamas hasn't been able to use the tunnels to infiltrate into Israel. The third thing that changed is that Israel could amass and acquired much better intelligence than it had in 2014 on their locations. So much so that we have already destroyed quite a lengthy stretch of tunnels in Guardian of the Walls, and again during the past few days. However, Hecht is aware of the limitations. Hamas embedded their tunnels' entrances deep in the humanitarian and social lives of people. Entrances, so IDF intel, found them at and near clinics, schools, factories, universities, along UN sites, and welfare centers. Weapons manufacturing sites embedded into the tunnels are just part of the system, and Hamas uses both these and external positions too, he adds. If they are left only with those in the tunnels, it will reduce their rate of fire because firing many at once requires creating a field of multiple-barreled launchers. We asked Hecht about the strategic importance of the tunnels for Hamas, and whether Hamas will be able to maintain or even expand its tunnel metro. The tunnel's strategic importance of the offensive tunnels was demonstrated on the first day of the terror offensive, he explains. They ensured the terrorists could arrive at the fence undetected. We now have to detect all of them and destroy them. The ones they used will be easier because they now have openings, even if very small ones. The ones they haven't used will be harder, and will be a threat to the rear of our troops if and when we go into Gaza on the ground. Hecht's answer sheds light on open-source techniques to find the exit holes of the buildings. To locate entrances under buildings, in basements, etc., it will require various intelligence sources, from tracking geolocations of phone data over satellite intel to human sources. All this might be extremely tough in the current conflict scenario. One way to spot new tunnels. Check on old example. Here, the IDF bombed out a 2016 Hamas tunnel system leading into the water. The idea behind it was to allow frogmen to capture packages deposited by ally Iran in the water, allegedly containing weapon parts, before being carried back to base covertly. Tunnels can, don't necessarily have to, also connect to rocket launch sites. With high-res images, argues the IDF on social media that Hamas launch sites are positioned near UN sites. The tunnels protect Hamas from not only Israeli aerial observations, but also from aerial bombing, tells us John W. Spencer, a now retired U.S. Army officer and researcher of urban warfare. These large maps just doesn't exist publicly any longer. Without the tunnels, Hamas is defenseless. Hecht stresses that the defensive tunnels are the basis for their survival. Those we know about are being destroyed by the Air Force, the ground-penetrating bombs. Those we don't know the exact trace of will serve as shelters and fighting positions that will reduce our ability to kill them while increasing their ability to pop out and attack IDF units by surprise, causing us more casualties, he says. But Hecht also sees one major hurdle. If the war drags on, Hamas will be able to gradually dig more, but only if they somehow can keep accessing building material. Without concrete, they will be more prone to collapse. Probably more or less, what they have left after the bombings is what they will have for the ground fighting now, he says. If the Hamas terrorists survive this war, it will be only a matter of time for them to start digging again and build new tunnels and repair partially damaged old ones.